It was either that or around it, and I'm like, there, hold on.
He's gone.
It's your kids, Chester. We have to do something about your kids.
SpongeBob, Johnny Bravo kicking by the beach bar. DJ making
Hello, welcome back to Hat Needs Normal. Today we're talking about hats.
What's even the deal with hats? What is even the deal with hats?
This one I got at a concert recently for free, so that was pretty cool.
Are you seeing 23 Pilots?
It's an indie band called Nightly. They're pretty cool. Kind of probably not a lot of people's speed. It's very like, let's just say a lot of the people in the front row were women. So there's that. But anyways, welcome back to the actual show, Bikini Bottom Inquirer. This is a Nickelodeon podcast. You might have gotten confused by the last episode.
Anyone who subscribed from the previous episode.
And I mean, we'll have random conversations. So even if you don't care about Nickelodeon, stay, hang out. We'll talk about why James Gunn is the Antichrist, and what Star Wars games we're playing, and why the PlayStation 5 sucks.
Yep. And why who was the other guy? Who's the guy that made those other movies?
Zack Snyder.
Why Zack Snyder's also cringe.
Why I want to
We can play both sides of the fence.
Zack Snyder over the edge of a building like Batman.
And say, where is it? Where's the second movie? Where's Another hilarious bits just like this.
Yes, exactly.
You can expect all this from Bikini Bottom Inquirer with yours truly, Chester Liddon, and Who Needs Normal?
Hat Needs Normal.
Hat Needs Normal.
I'm an expert at funny bits. Don't know if you've noticed.
No, you go hard every time.
That's just my sense of humor, I guess. I try to do bits. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And sometimes I'm like, frick, I shouldn't have even opened my mouth. But
heck.
Frick. Heck.
So we've got an interesting topic
Fidget
for this
spinner.
one. We're gonna be jumping in pretty quickly.
Right. I was gonna say we're not gonna waste time this time.
We wasted the previous episode. We can move on.
We did all of that last time. The last episode was just a primer for this episode. This is gonna be a little bit of a different episode. It is Nickelodeon related or adjacent. I guess it's kind of like the first episode where we talk about personal experiences. Something happened to me years ago that I've never gotten a chance to talk about it in a like public setting on YouTube, but also just like talk it out with someone. Like I've complained about it to people before, like my family knows what all happened, and I'm still trying to process it even all these years later, because part of me feels a certain level of guilt for what happened and wondering, did I do this right? Was I in the wrong, at least on some level? / am I the asshole? I don't think I was full on the villain, but I don't know that I was entirely in the right. And so I just wanted to talk this through here with my buddy Chester. You were there. You don't. I don't know how much
bits
you know
and pieces about it.
Yeah, you saw bits and pieces. But so basically, as I'm sure you all already know, my claim to fame was making the true story of BigSky Interactive, where I talked about the history of this company that made one of the most widely hated SpongeBob games of all time, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. I made that video in 2019. You already know this already, but I'm setting the stage. I think it was 2021 when this happened.
Yeah.
That was back in the day when I was still checking my analytics pretty regularly, keeping up with what was going on my channel, seeing like spikes in traffic, and usually the spikes weren't huge, but even if there was a little spike, I was like, I wonder what caused that. Or looking at the videos on YouTube that suggest, because YouTube Studio lets you view like, oh, this video is linking to yours, or maybe not linking, but suggesting your video. Like you're getting traffic from this video. So that's how this started, I guess, was I noticed there was a video with, it wasn't a huge spike, but it was a spike, and I was like, I wonder what that video is. And I noticed it was not in English. I didn't know what language it was at the time, but I looked at it and I started translating it a little. I think there was subtitles on it, so I was able to understand what he was saying. It was in Russian. I will say up front that this particular guy was technically Ukrainian, I think, but he spoke Russian, and I think he may have lived in Russia. I don't know exactly. But basically, this video, I basically just say this guy stole my video in a sense. He took my script and kind of changed the words. He kind of pulled can I copy your homework, bro? Sure, but change a few words around so the teacher doesn't know that we cheated or whatever. That kind of felt like the vibe. And
that's also very easily evident because basically everything that you brought forward in your video was the first time any of that had ever been
it was all
discussed or open.
A lot of it was original information or stuff that was buried on the Wayback Machine.
So it's pretty easy to
Internet
tell
Archive.
that. If you're on the breaking side of news, you can tell when someone has used your
And
stuff.
there's a lot more indicators than that. And we're actually going to look at the video later. Just how this all started, basically, is I was looking at the analytics. I noticed this. I started watching this video, and I realized, hey, this is just my video in another language, basically. It was shortened. Some of the words were changed, but it was all the same order, all the same information, just in Russian. And I don't know how familiar you are with this, but this is kind of an epidemic on YouTube where Russian creators just copy creators from other languages, and most of the time they get away with it because nobody ever realizes or there's not actually copywritten things that can be legally claimed.
I've never had something like that. I've had 5 or 6 instances because I'm quite proud of my Photoshop skills. I make some pretty cool thumbnails. I've had 5 or 6 instances of people using my thumbnails for stuff. And I'm like, bro, the SpongeBob community is way too small for you to be doing that.
I think you mentioned that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you saying something about that.
That's the only instance I've ever had that, and it's been resolved by me like sending them an email, just be like, where'd you find that?
Right. I guess you could say I had a Russian copycat situation. Was kind of what I'm titling this thing, is the Russian copycat situation. As I started to realize more and more what this video was and what was happening, I kind of started to panic a little bit. The video was just a few days old, and it was already exploding way faster than my original video ever did.
Oh, wow.
Like, my growth took years, and it's like, I think it's at like 50,000 now. It took a very long time to get there. He was at like 10,000, 12,000 after a day or two, I want to say. I could be like...
And how big was his channel?
This was his first video, basically.
Wow.
Or
Okay.
if not his first video, his first one that
New
got
channel.
any attention.
New channel, yeah.
Yeah, he was a small creator. So it wasn't even just a situation... Like, in a lot of these situations, it's frustrating because the Russian YouTuber is like 50 times the size of the YouTuber they're stealing content from. That was not necessarily the case. We were both very small at that point. I think at that point he had probably already passed me in subs, and that was also very frustrating. I mean, obviously you can tell, like, anyone being ripped off, you're gonna be upset. You're not gonna know what to do. You might feel a little bit panic. And
Well, especially if they're finding success from it.
Right,
a
and
whole
that's
other
the thing is there was a certain level of jealousy that played into it, which it's like you could debate whether or not that's wrong or right, but I feel like there used to be a discourse about, like, you shouldn't be in YouTube for the numbers, you should be in it for the love of the sport, basically.
I think that was the case, and that was very much the idea back when we were coming up in YouTube. That
Right.
kind of 2013 to kind of 2018. It was like, oh, if you don't love it, then like, why are you doing it? You're only ever going to be successful if you love it.
Don't dwell on your
That doesn't
numbers.
exist anymore.
Don't pay
that
attention
doesn't
to all
exist
that
anymore,
stuff.
I think.
And I feel like it's more widely accepted that you're allowed to
You can do this
feel
because
jealous
there's a
about
purpose
numbers.
to it. Yeah,
Right,
you can
yeah.
do this for the, like, it doesn't need to be a solely, oh, I just love it and it's all whimsical and all that. People understand that, like, you do it for an ego thing, a little bit of it, of just like,
Right,
I want to
yeah.
have my voice out there and I want to be doing cool stuff and I want it to be associated with me.
And there was an ego thing, because it was like, this was my story. I broke this. This was my big thing. Like, at the time, it was all I was really known for, except for, like, I guess probably by that point I had that other Creature from the Krusty Krab document I'd shared. But this was my baby, I guess. I feel like the jealousy and the anxiety were kind of warranted. To a degree. I tried to stay calm as much as possible. It started to get worse, though, the more I read. You know, the video had clearly used all of my work. He half gave me credit, sort of. There's a disclaimer at the very beginning of the video that says, hey, this video is 100% based on a video by who needs normal? Go watch his video for more information if you feel like it or whatever. But it was a very brief disclaimer. It flashed on the screen.
So it wasn't red. It wasn't red out.
No, it was not. It was like
right.
It was like the FBI warning at the beginning of the VHS tape. In his mind, he gave me credit. I think he linked in the description. I don't think people really look at descriptions.
No.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if I look in descriptions for like music sometimes, if I'm like hearing a catchy tune and I really want to know what it was.
But I will also just say that whole thing of like with streamers who watch videos, like the entire videos on stream, and then they link the thing in like the end of it. It's like, you just showed everyone the thing. No one is going to then go and watch it again.
Right.
No one. You've stolen that content, and now you're saying,
right. Yeah.
"Oh no, I'm clear because I gave credit to it." You stole that view that video was deserved to have gotten.
I actually had a big streamer, a big YouTube creator in general, react to that video maybe that same year. Snapcube, who is known for doing like, they call them real-time fan dubs. Her and her friends are watching cutscenes of like Sonic the Hedgehog and like speaking as the characters are speaking. So they're dubbing it in real time, and it's kind of a goofy thing. And she was very popular at the time. She's still very popular, but she was playing Revenge of the Flying Dutchman on Twitch, and people were in her comments were like, "Oh, you should watch this video," or whatever. The difference was, even in the moment, she was like, "Okay, if I'm gonna do this, you all have to go and click on this video and have it pulled up and watching it at the same time that we're watching it on stream." So I got all the views and the watch time.
Doing that. That's good. Yeah.
And that was back in the day when people were still pretty accepting of just watching stuff on Twitch. So it was kind of
yeah, my basis is the XQC types and
right, exactly.
All those dickheads.
Charlie, Moist Critical. No, he stopped doing that. But I don't have the receipts of the comments on the video because I was a little bit short-sighted in this situation. I was just freaking out. I didn't think, I'm going to want to read back these comments. But basically all the comments were like, "Oh man, I can't believe you made this video. Like, I can't believe you found this information. This is incredible video, bro. You did such a great job writing all this out." Basically just praising him for everything that he really didn't do. He just kind of re-edited everything together, and it was very frustrating. And they're all speaking in a different language. So I'm like, YouTube auto-translates comments now. Like, if you click on it, it will say translate comment. I'm not sure if that was the case at the time. I was like copying, pasting into Google Translate to figure out this. And so I was like, this sucks. They were attributing all the credit to him, and that was frustrating. I guess I'll mention this first before we get into the video itself, because I kind of have an outline here that I thought made the most sense. I commented on the video, and his response, and again, there's a language barrier, so it might have sounded more aggressive than it was meant to be, but he kind of just blew me off and was like, so the disclaimer said, I did not, what's the word? I always do this. I always lose my words when I'm talking on this podcast. I did not plagiarize him. I did not copy him. I rewrote the script entirely on my own and made a completely new editing sequence or whatever. And you'll see that here in a minute.
So was that what the disclaimer said, or was that what his comment said?
That's what the disclaimer said.
So you put a disclaimer saying, I've taken this person's work, but I did not plagiarize them. This is my own work.
Exactly.
Is that seriously what you outlined?
Essentially, yes. And you'll see that here in a minute. And he kind of reiterated this in the comment. That's why I bring it up, is when I freaked out, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was basically like, this isn't okay. Like, just because you think it's okay doesn't make it okay. And again, I'm paraphrasing. I'm speaking entirely from memory because I don't have these screenshots, but he had a lot of excuses. Like, I'm sorry that you feel that I plagiarized you.
But I changed the wording.
Basically, it's edit. Like, he was basically like, I'm sorry that you feel this way, but it's not my problem. That's not what he said, but that's kind of the vibe I got. He was like, he was astounded by the numbers he was getting. I was astounded by the numbers he was getting. And he was thinking this was his big break.
For a small channel as well.
This was going to be the start of his career or whatever. So he was not willing to take the video down. When I argued with him, telling him that he needed to, that he could, like, if it would have been one thing if he had asked me for permission or messaged me and said, hey, can I translate your video? He didn't do any of that. He never once messaged me, never once reached out. He just did it without really thinking about me. And that was frustrating too. And he was basically like, I don't want to argue with you. I want consensus. He kept saying that word, like, I want consensus. I think he kind of meant more, he wants compromise, maybe? I'm not sure. But basically...
Or maybe it would be agreement?
Yeah, I don't know.
For you to come
right.
to terms?
Right, I think that was probably what he meant by consensus.
Unified, like...
He probably meant agreement, but what he really meant by consensus was he wanted me to let it go and move on. That was what he wanted. He didn't want to make peace. He wanted me to go away. He also mentioned that, like, when we were going back and forth, he was like, I want consensus. Also, you know, your video was really boring and I made it more interesting. Like, he straight up said that. Like, he's like, my video is better. Like, that was his attitude about it. Because, you know, that video was long. It was drawn out. A lot of the editing was pretty boring because it was my first video ever and I made it on Share Factory. And I was self-conscious about that at the time. So that stung pretty badly. That kind of pissed me off. Like, I was like, I know it's not great. Doesn't mean you can just take it and...
yeah, it doesn't make it his.
Yeah. I have more to say on this, as far as everything that happened next. But I think now would be a good time to switch over and... look at the video itself. I'm gonna try to maybe skip through it, possibly. I mean, I think we should watch a decent chunk of it because there's a lot of points to make, and it's actually it was even worse than I realized as far as copying me goes.
Yeah,
because
so
in the moment,
professionally translated. You were saying as well. Yeah.
So, spoiler alert: the video doesn't exist anymore. We'll get into that, but I have access to the video. Google's auto translate is not very accurate, so I decided to pay a Fiverr freelancer to translate it for me and make a subtitle file. So we're gonna watch through it. It's about 19 minutes or so, and I'll pause and kind of go over certain points that I find interesting or point things out. He speaks really fast, and so the subtitles go really fast. And so just try to read it the best you can as we go, and then I'll kind of circle back. I'm not going to reveal this guy's identity. I don't want to pile on him. So I'm just going to read out this disclaimer as it goes.
Okay, so just to clarify, this warning is 4 seconds long.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So quick as far as the
and it's a wall of text that no one read.
Warning. This video is 100% based on the content of the US blogger Who Needs Normal. Also, like, even with the translator, there's still a bit of a language barrier. So some things I think might not work in the context of English very well. I'm not a blogger, obviously. I don't know if that's what he actually said at the time, but I didn't steal his idea. I wrote a new script and unique video sequence. I recommend watching his video after it to get more information. You can find a link in the description. So the intro is probably the most original part about this. Even some of it I'm not sure about, but like he is giving some of his own thoughts that don't exactly make sense to me. He's talking about there were companies that were fraudsters that just took money and ran, and he says, according to me, BigSky Interactive was one of them.
It probably just means, in my opinion, BigSky Interactive was one of them.
And I mean, I guess a lot of people felt that way even at the time. But he likes their game, so I don't think he's... I don't know what he means when he says the thing at the beginning, because he seems to like them. I will also mention...
Well, that's the first big offense so far here. He thinks those are amazing games. Someone clearly hasn't played them. He stole all of it. He didn't even play the games.
Not only did he take my outline of my video, my information, but even some of the edit... You know, he talks about how he did the editing all on his own. He does have some original sequences, but I will point out some of the editing that literally just did what I did and slightly differently. It's impossible to find anything about BigSky online because they worked in the 2000s. That's not really why. He recently became interested with their history, and I have found something amazing for you. So he found.
See, honestly, yeah, in a from an ethical point of view. Sorry, I just paused it. From an ethical point of view,
I paused it as well.
Okay, that's when you say, "I found something amazing." I became interested in their history after seeing Who Needs Normal's video on all this, and it's made me want to jump into it.
And that's probably what he did. Is he saw my video, and that's why he became interested.
That's the ethical way to handle it. Of let's just go through my thought pattern here. Let me express this verbally,
right? And if he had
video,
taken,
not in text,
right?
Verbally.
If he had taken my information and did it right, you know, made his own video, cited me correctly, even if he didn't cite me correctly, even if he just took the information and actually did his own video, that would be one thing. But
it's perfectly fine to treat you as a source, because
Right.
that's what you are when you put stuff out in that space. You become a source,
right, and
that comes with accreditation.
that's the way to do it. And you know, I haven't done this perfectly. In my previous videos, my citations weren't really that great. I didn't know what I was doing. Accidental plagiarism happens, but this seems very, very intentional, even though he's trying to say that he did it himself.
Well, even just from a narrative point of view, like when you were explaining that you have recently become interested in this, narratively, you then express why.
Right.
Is it because you recently went back to play it? Is it because you've been seeing stuff about it on the internet? Did you see a meme about it? What has sparked your interest? So from a scripting point, that's a half-done thought.
And I
You
think a lot
should
of
have the expression there.
He really speeds through that's part of the, you know, he called my video boring. He really speeds through a lot of this and gives like half thoughts at times. Doesn't really elaborate on certain points. He didn't just copy my information, he copied my mistakes, but he also made his own mistakes. You'll see here in a minute that he kind of misinterprets some of the things that I said and reframes them in a way that was not at all what happened, which is interesting. In my video, I arbitrarily chose to make a lot of decisions, not only in editing, but also in writing my script. I was like, I'm going to do this in segments. I'm going to go intro, this part of their journey, this part of their journey, this part of their journey, and do it in a certain order because it made sense to me to do it this way. I chose how to tell this story in a specific order, and he also copies my order. He's starting with the same part of the story that I started with, even though the story actually goes deeper than how far I went. Yeehaw. Take your lasso and put your cowboy hat on. We're going to Texas right now. In 1998, 4 cowboys founded their new company. He talks about, so he kind of reframes it as 4 people founded this company. Matt Scabilia was not a founder. He joined them, but he was not technically a founder. But he just kind of condensed that part. But he also chose 2 of these pictures are the same pictures I used. And then also he chose to use the same like idea of using an anonymous picture for someone that I couldn't find a picture for. Which, I mean, I guess that's not necessarily an original idea, but it's exactly how I did it.
Yeah.
Their names were not well known, but they were professionals in their field. And you'll also notice, like, a lot of the things he says are just literally reworded versions of my sentences. I say, you've likely never heard of them, but they were all more than qualified. And he says here,
the name's not well known, but all of them were professionals in their fields.
right, and it's you're saying the same thing in so many words, basically. He thinks that that's like, yeah, I rewrote it. Because he did. But he's saying the same thing.
But also, obviously, you know, this has been transcribed. Its sentence doesn't make sense.
Right, and that's
Just
another
because we
thing
don't know
too.
someone doesn't mean that they're not professionals.
Yeah, that's a big problem with this video. Is part of it's the language barrier, and part of it I think is just a fundamental misunderstanding of what happened. They worked for EA for many years in a row. Well, they worked for Origin Systems. No doubt they were motivated and wanted to develop games. They were working on tiny orders for huge studios, and again, by doing so, they were able to grow. In a couple of years, they were able to open their own studio. Again, like, I don't think he understands how any of this works, because nothing he just said makes any sense. Because they were working for EA. They were not working on contracts for... They were not working on tiny things for big studios. I guess maybe his interpretation of, like, the projects that I listed that they worked on, like Zork, X-Files, Madden, like... In his mind,
and
these
Madden are not small things.
Yeah, exactly. In his mind, they are though. He probably. I mean, I don't know what they like in Russia or Ukraine or whatever part of the world he lives in. So maybe to him they were tiny. They weren't working on like contracts. They were an in-house studio for EA, and they did not make money to open their own studio. They decided to leave and open their own studio. This wasn't It wasn't a matter of money. He makes money a big deal in this video, and it was not as big of a thing as he's making it out to be. They called it Daylight Productions. Another thing,
It's not very many computers there for a game development.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know where he got this photo.
Yeah, it's not very many computers there for a developing house.
You would be surprised. I think a lot of video game developers don't have a ton of computers, but I don't know where he got this picture. I don't know if it just came up as, like, if you looked up Daylight Productions office and this just randomly came up. As far as I know, this is not Daylight Productions.
That's also
just
a
some random.
That's like a
office.
70s camera, 70s studio. It's a bit early.
Who knows what office this is? Does not look like a game development studio. There were 40 people working for them. At this point, no, there were not. There were 4 to 5, like very little people. They only grew to 40 after. I don't think they were even fully 40 until they started hiring for Jimmy Neutron and SpongeBob.
Yeah, you said they scaled up quite a bit for that. So.
Yeah. In 2002, it was their golden hour, which 2002 was when SpongeBob came out. So Swamp Buggy Racing was not. It had nothing to do with 2002. They developed their first independent game. It was not an independent game. It was about racing in swamps. Again, when we talk about copying my outline and copying my specific choices, they made other games too. They did like sprint car racing and other games. I randomly just decided I was going to use Swamp Buggy Racing as a...
So it's the same connection there of that.
This was a random choice that I made. I was like, I couldn't get sprint car to work. I couldn't find footage of it. So I'm just going to talk about Swamp Buggy Racing. And I randomly chose to highlight it.
Is this your gameplay then?
No.
If you couldn't find gameplay.
This was not my gameplay. I found gameplay of this one. I could not find gameplay of Sprint Car Racing, which was another game that they made. I randomly chose to talk about Swamp Buggy Racing, but he made his own video and also talked about Swamp Buggy Racing in the exact same order that I talked about Swamp Buggy Racing. We will ignore the gameplay, but because we need to know the overall development time. It took them 4 months. It was really fast for a studio with 40 people. No,
it's very fast for a studio of 5 people.
Yeah,
that's very
for 40 people. You don't need 40 people. 40 people should be making like a fantastic racing game. How could they do it? They used an engine provided by a different company. He's about to say Callisto Entertainment. The way I phrased it, this little racer had been developed in only 4 short months. How was this possible? An engine they were given by a French partner company, Callisto Entertainment. So again, saying the same thing. A mistake that I made in my video was saying that Libsys was the engine that was used to create this game. That was an assumption that I made based on the information that I had because it made sense. I connected dots that weren't there. It was a totally different engine that someone else made at Callisto called Totem Tech. So I just assumed it was Libsys because the way they talked about Libsys was the same way they talked about Totem Tech. Also, even if it was Libsys, this is not Libsys. I don't... if you notice down in the corner, it says Liberty City. So I'm assuming this is some kind of Rockstar engine of some kind.
Just searched up old game engine.
Yeah, I don't know if he looked up Libsys and this came up, but this is not Libsys. This is probably something from Rockstar or some kind of spin-off engine from Grand Theft Auto because it's called Liberty City. Again, he's going over the highlights of everything that I said. He's just saying it in a more concise manner. And to be honest with you, I got a lot of this original part just from reading Wikipedia stuff, because again, this was my first video and I didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, okay, Wikipedia is a source. I'm gonna do that. And that was dumb. I should have used better articles, but they were able to attract the attention of Apple itself, which is literally a sentence that I said. After such a success, they patented their game engine. I don't know if that's true. They started to create games. They were sure their engine could be scaled for larger projects. It will be one of the main issues with the SpongeBob game. Sort of. After solving all legal issues, Callisto Entertainment was able to adjust their engine to work with the CD-ROM format.
What legal issues?
That's what I was about to pause. I don't know what he's talking about. There was nothing that I ever said about...
Did Apple not want them developing for CD-ROM?
No.
Like, still on their format?
I didn't say anything about it in my video, and it's clear that
we're changing things. We're keeping it original. We're adding random words.
Exactly. He's inserting thoughts that I never said, and again, it doesn't seem like he's really doing any of his own research, so I have no idea where that sentence came from or what he means by that.
ChatGPT can do it, so can we.
This was really before ChatGPT.
We can be wrong as well.
They issued 3 more games. Again, another arbitrary decision that I made, just picking 3 random games out of their catalog to be like, okay, they made this game and this game and this game. They made other games, but he just so happened to choose the same 3 games in the exact same order that I set them in. They were growing, hiring new talent. and buying new offices. I don't know what office that is. At that stage, they bought Daylight Productions. I don't think they were buying a bunch of offices. I think they just randomly decided to buy Daylight because of the relationship they already had.
They had a development team that was using their engine.
Daylight was using their engine. They were like, oh, you're using our engine. You're doing a decent job. We're going to buy you. I think Daylight was the only... I mean, I can't say that definitively because I haven't looked into it deeper, but as far as I know, Daylight's the only one they bought.
Probably who they could afford.
Before that, Callisto Entertainment...
Proficient.
Right. I mean, they were small. And also, they didn't pay money.
People.
It was a stock exchange, which
a
lot of these sales, when bigger game companies buy smaller game companies, it's almost always a stock exchange. And I feel like that's a horrible way because, like, Callisto goes under. So I don't know what happened to any of that stock. I don't know if they were able to get the value out of it at the end of the day. I really don't know.
Well, if they went through bankruptcy, they wouldn't even be on the... I'm not sure if they would be on the payout for anything there.
Right. I don't know how
they're
that
not.
worked.
They're not technically a debtor.
Yeah.
They're not in debt.
I don't know. It was weird. Before that, Callisto Entertainment would just provide access to their engine for money. They were literally glowing from happiness. That seems like a random thought, okay? But there was something hidden behind such a success. What happened with Daylight after Callisto Entertainment bought them? They were renamed into Callisto USA, but nothing else changed. They used the same engine rental model. Callisto USA was responsible for... So that's another thing that, again, I don't think he fully understood Daylight and Callisto's relationship. When he says nothing else changed, he's copying the part where I said... that essentially, they were just they were just Daylight Productions with a new name because they were still basically their own entity, but Callisto was funding them. Was basically what I said.
Callisto obviously wouldn't want to break what was working. So
he says here that nothing changed and they still had to pay Callisto for the engine. I don't know where he got that. That's what he's saying.
We buy you. You pay us.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's happening here, according to him. But that's not. I think he misunderstood what I said. All employees of Daylight supported such a format. He's repeating. He's copying there what I said. Where I said all. The employees at Daylight were not against the acquisition. They considered it as a new stage of their relationships with their French partners. I said the employees at Daylight were not against the acquisition. They saw it as a more of an obvious next step in their already established partnership, and it didn't hurt that Callisto helped to fund their new office for them in California. Developing Jimmy Neutron and trying to get the rights to SpongeBob is what this chapter.
I'm just about this because until you did your video, there was a lot of misconceptions around all this.
Like what? So what do you mean?
The order that they released in, because there was also the demo.
Right, and I still think that I had maybe some misconceptions. I was guessing on some of the timeline. Jimmy Neutron and I know Jimmy Neutron came out first. Well, it started first for sure. I'm fairly certain it came out first, but I believe they were mostly being developed at the same time. But when I was interviewing people, I wasn't really interested in Jimmy Neutron. I was interested in Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, so that was what I was asking questions about. The U.S. company was assigned to work on a huge project. It was Jimmy Neutron. It was the Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius game. The developing process was smooth and had no issues. Do you think that was true, Chester?
Every person would perform their task.
Definitely smooth. Definitely was not being produced at the exact same time as Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, therefore having all of the same problems. But you know,
I feel like he's being paid by Callisto here. Everything's fine.
At this moment, developers started to get strange rumors. THQ was preparing a game by using a license from Nickelodeon. They hadn't hired any studio at that time. We are talking about our favorite SpongeBob SquarePants. All the employees at the company were excited. They were real fans of the series. They were ready to do anything to get hired. A small group of developers and artists started to work on the project. This is basically what I say word for word at this point. Now, here's where I'm going to point something out to you that I did not realize until long after this situation happened. This is not my quote, so we'll talk about that later when he uses some other quotes, but listen very closely in the background.
У нас были платформы, по которым можно прыгать, анимации, набор предметов и работающий худ. Один художник, Дэймон Шелтон, создал 11 персонажей моделей всего за 3 дня. Дженнет Оу создала окружение, а Тони Сальваджо анимировал губку Боба. Фред Мизак, ведущий программист Джимми Нейтрона, написал код для нашей демки.
Did you catch that?
Yeah.
So, in my videos, I took a little thing that the gaming historian would sometimes do, where like he was quoting something and he'd have another YouTuber read it. I was like, I like that idea, but I want to do it like even more than gaming historian does. And now I do it so much that my videos are kind of an oral history at some points. Mr. Jephthah, we've talked about him many times.
He's back.
I had him. Originally, he was just going to read for one of them, but he ended up having to read for both Billy and Matt. But he read the audio that was for my narration of those videos. This guy, again, didn't ask me, didn't get permission, and I wouldn't consider this transformative. I mean, I guess in a literal sense, maybe because he's not transforming what I did. He took my audio of my cousin saying the line and put it behind his line. I don't know if he thought this is Matt Scabilia talking. He doesn't own this.
Right.
I don't know what the thought process was there, but he didn't just take my outline or copy my ideas or my editing. He took my audio. He literally took parts of my video without permission. He took my audio and just lowered the volume and put it behind his narration.
So he must have thought that it was the actual guy being interviewed.
Maybe, or maybe it was like some weird artistic decision, but I feel like it kind of backs up what's gonna happen later. I just thought that was crazy that he did that. It feels so brazen to me, and I don't know. I don't know why. That really bothers me almost more in some ways. His backgrounds are interesting. Like,
yeah, I was just thinking that. What's with the Tetris off to the side?
That's what I was wondering too, because he has the arcade lights, and then randomly Tetris on the other side. I don't know. It's an interesting choice. That's one of my mistakes where I said Matt Scabilia E3 2002. That was a bad citation. I should have cited the actual, because it was at E3 2002 that he gave this quote, but there was an actual website that was speaking, and I didn't think, I need to include the website. I'm fixing that. GIGnews.com, which was GameIndustryGoddess.com. It was some lady that I actually think they knew personally. And so she was like, "Oh, I'll cut your break. I'll give you an interview so you're more professional or whatever." But still, she still deserved credit for that interview.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was my mistake. First of all, developers had to design the world and heroes. Is Steven Hillenburg's middle name McDaniel?
Absolutely. No way in hell is it Stephen McDaniel. It is.
Oh, okay.
It is.
Okay.
Oh my god.
I don't know why
the Russian got one over on us. He's a real SpongeBob fan, unlike us.
I don't know. I feel like that was like he was like, "Oh, I have to make it slightly different, so I'll include his middle name." I said the way I phrased this was they had to come up with a game design that Nickelodeon and Steven Hillenburg would approve of, and he's saying they would be approved by Steven McDaniel Hillenburg. I think there's a language barrier there and a misunderstanding.
So, obviously, what we're seeing here is it's that awkward thing of when you taking someone else's script. A lot of the issues that we're seeing here are what you have to do in order to change it. You do lose meaning, you lose cohesion, you have to kind of create weird sentences and all that. And that's what we're seeing a lot of here. So it's very clear that they're like taking a heap of stuff,
right? And
what they're imposing is kind of a level of emotion or way to kind of add a little bit of extra, and that's where you're getting stuff like the weird shots of the office and stuff. It's like, no point for this to be
right.
here.
He's
this is
trying.
Really weird decision.
He's trying to make it different, but it's the same. But he's like, okay, but if I inject this, then people will know it's different. And it's like a lot of the stuff that he's injecting just muddies the message and is false.
So far, what I'm finding is probably the most intense signs of copying is firstly using the audio with your cousin. That's a clear sign of like they're not using it for any like purpose other than that's what was there.
Yeah.
The use of the same games and the same listing of games, because that's all narrative stuff. That's personal narrative building, that you thought that was the best way to build the narrative, and that was a personal choices on your part that he's taken. And rather than building their own narrative, it's just, I'll grab those.
Really, the most egregious thing is he claims that he rewrote it, but it's literally just the same script with different...
Yeah. And you got to think, the stuff that's changing could very much be a change because of the translator that he's
right, exactly. And that's the thing, is he's rewriting it, but he's also just writing it in his language. So...
Or he's taking what Google Translate is saying, and he's like,
right.
"Oh, I'll fix this so this actually makes sense because Google Translate stuff that out."
Right, because I never translated it into Russian. I didn't even have subtitles written out at that point. He's going solely off of what he understands, and he understands a bit of English, I think, but I think he was relying a lot on Translate. So this is a quote by Billy Kane. This was from my interview with him. Takes the quote. Not the correct citation, because when I did this, I didn't know, I was like, I'm not going to cite myself, so I'm just going to write the year that he said it. And I thought that would indicate this was my own interview. Yeah. And I think a lot of people did understand that. Not sure that he did, because he didn't change the citation. He just wrote the same thing. Billy Joe Kane, 2019. This is an interesting example of plagiarism where Matt explained to me why the logo was what it was, and so I described it. And actually, Matt misremembered what the logo was. I think he was remembering an old draft, because he described it as a tree with sunlight peeking through the tree and everything. And so I basically took what he said about the tree, but applied it to what the logo actually was. That's another personal decision that he takes and does his own version of. Now he's talking about the glitch.
Which doesn't exist.
The glitch exists, but it does not do what people think it does. It's not it's not what people think it is. The glitch is that it can sometimes crash your system. It doesn't corrupt your save data. It happened a lot. I don't know if it was as widespread as it's claimed to be. Oh, he also talked about, there was one part that was where I talked about the designer who lost their grandparent and had to go to Japan. When I was talking about that, I was just kind of bundling all the different drama and tragedies that happened together. He says, in September, one developer had to deal with his grandfather's death. I never said it was in September. I think September comes from the fact that I bundled all the bad stuff together. And one of the interesting stories that I was told was that 9/11 happened during the production of this game. And that was in September. So somehow that got misconstrued as in September, the developer lost his grandfather. All in all, it's my video, but shortened and reworded. And even some of the editing,
with a lot more issues as well.
Oh, there was another mistake in here that was weird, where like when he talks about the foundation of BigSky, when they all got together to form, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it quickly, but when he talks about the 5 founding members of BigSky, one of them he just swapped out for a different guy entirely. Mark Day, instead of Billy Kane, he put Mark Day as a founder, who was a founder of, I don't know why he put that there, because it was obviously not what I said, and that doesn't seem like a translation issue. That just seems like he's plucking that out of nowhere and rewriting the story, but I don't know. So yeah, I mean, we could go on and on and on, and I'll cut out a lot of the fat as we're talking. Hey guys, editing Who Needs Normal here, just cutting in to interject a little something. There was kind of a significant bit at the end of the video that I didn't think to mention to Chester in the moment. I didn't even remember it was in there, to be honest. So he has this end screen, the classic YouTuber end screen where people say, hey, click on this video, or if you like this video, watch this video. But that's not really what he says during this end screen. I'll just read it out here. He says, whoa, I spent a lot of time to prepare this video. And this is the part that I find significant. It really, really rubs me the wrong way. And I think it kind of also shows his attitude and his motivation, even more so than everything else that we've already covered. I don't want to push you, but you can find donation links below. So yeah, he really wants his newfound fans to donate to him because he made this video. I feel like that kind of speaks for itself. If you're actually making your own video, I don't think there's any problem asking for money necessarily. I mean, you don't want to be one of those people, obviously, that's all they want. They just are constantly asking for money. But when it's a video that you very clearly copied, it kind of sends a different message, you know? But yeah, anyways, back to it. So going back to when this all started, noticing the bright white of Google Docs is lighting up the room.
He's ascending me.
So again, I started to panic. I wasn't sure what to do. I was like, can I do anything? He's refusing to take it down. He says he wants consensus. He wants me to just move on and ignore it. My video was boring. His was better. Blah, 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 blah. And so my first instinct was to tweet. I tweeted at you and Writers and Zach Pack. And I think I also tweeted at Sheriff in the same tweet. And I was basically like, look, guys, I don't know what's happening. Some Russian YouTuber copied my video. Do any of you have experience with this? What do I do? I know Writers responded. I don't remember what Writers said. It wasn't significant enough that it sticks in my memory. Zach had a much more liberal take of the whole thing. And I mean that in like the literal translation of the word, not like, oh, politically. He was like, you know, this happens sometimes. Foreign YouTubers like a video a lot and want to translate it into their own language. He probably wasn't malicious about it. It's probably not as bad as you think. And he said that having no real context. I don't blame him for his take. I mean that he had the the reasonable thought process there. I don't think that was the case. I mean, he might have really liked the video, but he wanted to use it for his own purposes.
Doing the disclaimer at the start and other stuff. That's
he liked the information of the video, but he literally called me boring and insulted my editing. He didn't just translate it. He claimed to have rewritten it. It would be one thing if he claimed, oh, this is a translation of this video, but that wasn't what he said. It was, I did not plagiarize him. I made my own thing. Again, I think I might have tweeted at Sheriff. He might have responded, but I don't remember exactly if he said anything. And I don't remember everything you said. I don't know if you even remember me doing this tweet.
Nah.
But you kind of, you had an initial response where like, yeah, I don't know, man. And then you were like, so he used your interviews. You mentioned that. You're like, so if he used your interviews, those are technically copyrighted. And so you were basically like, well, you probably have the grounds to take it down legally. I just wanted it gone at the time. I wasn't really thinking about the consequences of the outcome or anything. I just wanted it gone. So I was like, I started doing research. I was like, I found the form to fill out and I was like, I guess I'm doing this. I mean, really, I was just looking for a reason. And what you said at the time made sense to me. It was like, yeah, those are my interviews. He didn't cite them correctly. And it's one thing. It's like, yes, interviews are copyright protected. I would be very, if someone came to one of my videos and was like, that's my interview, I'm going to copyright claim you, I'd be concerned. But I think part of the problem is interviews should be fair use. Interviews should be for everyone, but you have to cite them.
That's the thing.
Correctly.
Interviews should be fair use, but the whole point of it is that is there, and the copyright is there for this kind of concept of the brotherhood of reporting. Is that it's freely usable, it's and all that, but it's meant to be about respect
and proper credit, in my opinion. And that's why I feel bad for not properly crediting some of those interviews in my first video, and I'm gonna fix it. But I don't think he cared at all about proper credit. It's because he just copied my citations. On some level, I felt justified in taking down the video.
I think I remember Riders had a similar comment. I think me and Riders agreed in the replies. I think Riders said that he'd had to do something similar or something like that, and Riders had to take stuff down. And we were kind of debating about on what grounds it was, but it came down to the use of your interviews.
And I'll come back to, I guess I'll go back to, at the time it was just more interviews, but now in hindsight, I feel like I had even more of a right to do it because he used my audio without permission. And if you're doing that in a transformative way, it'd be one thing if like you're using my gameplay footage. I don't care if anyone uses my gameplay footage. I feel like that's the kind of thing that just people should be allowed to use. But when you're literally using like narration that technically it's not even mine. I had it made, but it's my cousin's. It's like, I don't feel like that's something you should just be able to pluck out and use for your
Look at the Jimmy Neutron video we did last week, the clip one. There's a segment in that where we show the entirety or a big chunk of the fan animation that someone did of Jimmy Neutron. while we were talking about the animation. So we're talking about that person, we're saying their name, but I also include the entire credit segments where it says their name, it has their brand, it has like other videos that they've made. You just include all of that.
And
like,
we're not just using their video, we're using as B-roll, and maybe using the audio the way he did.
In a sense of like, oh, maybe it could be something along this line of who was this guy? Who was this guy? Oh, it was Mark. Someone like it was in that kind. He could have taken that segment from your video of that interview and just had who needs normal at the bottom and like the accreditation for that.
Right. Playing devil's advocate, maybe you could argue the way he used the audio, it was just B-roll or whatever, but I feel like it's different. I don't know.
That gets chucked out the window when behavior is put into question, and when behavior is as bad as that.
Right.
You lose the ability to be looked upon favorably if you're behaving that way.
So I already kind of addressed that I kind of argued with him in the comments. Some of his newly acquired fans were also like angry at me, and they're siding with him because I mean I'm the stupid American that's angry, you know. I guess it makes sense. Whether I'm right or wrong, they're gonna side with him because he's from their country. And like I said, yeah, I ended up submitting a copyright claim, which it resulted in a strike. I don't know how automated this system is. I don't know if a real person had to review it and say, yes, he copied you or stole your stuff. We're going through with this claim. I don't know how that works. In my mind, I want to believe YouTube saw it, sided with me and said, yes, this is wrong. But there have been many cases of people abusing the copyright system in cases where it was not fair. So I can't say that for sure. He ended up emailing me after the strike, because the strike resulted in the video getting taken down. And so, of course, now he's panicking. Well, first of all, I guess I kind of took some screenshots at the time where like he had his community tab opened up because he was just exploding all of a sudden. He made a post showing his analytics and saying like, thank you all so much for it. This is Google translated. Thank you all so much for such a return on the last video. I really didn't expect it. Special thanks to everyone who switched and subscribed. Rest assured, I won't let you down. Look at how many numbers I have. This is crazy, you guys. That was very frustrating to see as well.
Yeah.
So I took the video down, and he said, hello, I'm redacted. I will delete the video from YouTube and will never, and this is in quotation marks. He puts this in quotation marks. I will never, quote, steal and plagiarize, unquote, your video again. But I want you to remove the strike. I want to keep making original videos, but the strike is the end of the channel. I think you as a YouTuber understand this. As I said earlier, I don't want to conflict you. I want to consensus. Okay, so yeah, there's definitely a translation. There's a language barrier there. So he doesn't want to argue with me. He wants to get along, I guess, but he still wants his way. He's trying to appeal to my YouTuber, my better nature.
YouTube tingle.
But at the same time, he's saying, I will never steal or plagiarize your video ever again. So clearly he still doesn't think he's done anything wrong. And that was something we kept arguing back and forth on, the definition of plagiarism. I remember saying like, just saying you didn't plagiarize something doesn't make it so. Just saying something doesn't will it into existence.
Did you email back and forth with him?
Briefly. I told him, from where I stand, I don't see why I should just do what you say when you clearly think you've done nothing wrong. I don't know if you had malicious intent or not, but what you did was not okay. On some level, I think you know this because you stated at the beginning of your video that you didn't steal or plagiarize my work. Changing the phrasing of how I said things doesn't mean you just rip me off and steal my work for your own benefit. Or doesn't mean you didn't just rip me off. You didn't ask for my permission. If you just wanted to translate my video, you could have reached out to me and we could have figured something out. If you wanted to use my information and completely write your own review or something like that, that would have been fine too. That's free information. Lots of people have made videos using my information as a source. You didn't do that. You took my outline, my structure, my words, and even many of my visualizations and just barely changed them and put your name on it. You did the bare minimum to credit me, and I think you did that intentionally because you wanted the credit. I think you thought I would never find out. You also blatantly insulted my work, which was my first video, and I did what I could with what I had. I have grown as a creator entirely on my own merit, by creating my own productions from scratch, and I spent over a year of my life trying my best to make that video. You took my blood, sweat, and tears and reused it so that you could get some quick views. That hurts on a deep personal level. You need to be your own creator with your own ideas and videos and process. Why be a creator if creation isn't truly your own? I said, again, you don't seem sorry. You put steal and plagiarize in quotes, as if that's not exactly what you did. I read your comments. They all thought you dug up the story, and you let them believe that and even say it in your video. It made me physically ill. I had this is true. I had one of my worst panic attacks of all time last night because of what you did. And then I ended up telling him that I would maybe consider taking the strike down. I wanted to be cordial. I wanted to do more research as well. He was very excited. He was like, oh yeah, I'll do everything you say, blah, 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 blah. I'm glad you're considering releasing the strike. And then I never heard from him after this, but I sent an email saying, so after doing some research and a little bit more thinking, here's the situation. A single copyright strike will not hurt your channel. It's more of a slap on the wrist than anything. And the effects of it are trivial, which I think
it's you
true.
Can't stream?
Well, so basically what I found was that there's maybe like a brief penalty of time, but the main thing is they make you do like a online class about why plagiarism is wrong or copying other people's stuff is wrong. Like it's like, this is why you shouldn't re-upload other people's content. It was like again, it's very minimal. It doesn't really affect you in the long run. It's when you start to rack up the strikes that it would be a problem. And then my fear was, does he have more than one strike? Is this not the first time that he's done this? If that's the case, I wouldn't feel comfortable letting him get away with it. So I said, I don't feel that I need to remove it because you already say you won't do it again. And this is why there is accountability for that. So like this is why this system is in place. If this is somehow not your first strike, then that's a more serious issue that I'm not comfortable being the one to let you get off the hook for. I understand that this might be upsetting to you and you might hate me for it, but in the end, I think it's better for you to understand that you have to be more careful in the future. I don't hate you. This is not meant to be malicious. I'm just trying to do what's best. If you have any questions about anything, like how the copyright itself works or how the strike could affect you, I'm happy to explain. Here's a link to YouTube's explanation of strikes in case you weren't fully aware of the actions you might need to take to keep your channel going. And then I link it and I say, they will not delete you for one occurrence. It's just a warning. So it was not the end of his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I will say, in a sense, it kind of was, but that's, we'll keep going. So the fallout. When you go to his channel, well, originally, he did try to make his own videos. He did a video about THQ, like the history of THQ. Unless he copied that as well, who knows?
That's the thing. That's the problem. That once that happens,
I think he did one on breaking the rules, where he talked about that game. But none of them.
Check that. I made a video on that. I should see if it's mine.
None of them got the same traction.
That's one thing. Is a strike does affect your reach.
I think he was very well, that, and also just I don't think people cared about what he was talking about at that point as well, because he still had all the subs he had gotten. They slowly started to drain away after he stopped uploading. He had the capability to keep uploading, and he just stopped because I killed his motivation. And that's partially why I feel DLT, is because it's like, in a way, I did kill his channel. Even though the copyright strike didn't necessarily do it, I took away his motivation because I stopped his growth, and he was really only in it for the numbers, clearly. He tried to keep going with the same channel, like I said. He made a couple more videos, he did some streaming. Ultimately, it never led anywhere. But I don't think he was trying to make it go anywhere because he was upset that his big video was gone.
By the end, how many views was it at?
I don't know. I did not, unfortunately, keep track of that. Let me double check.
But it would have been, it would have been, it's the first big video and then disappears.
I have a picture of his, at this point, this would have been like after the first day, it was at least 5,000, it looks like, and I think it was well over that by the end.
So it's probably 10,000 views or something.
Something like that. I the number that pops into my head is like 12,000, but I don't know where that comes from. That might just be some random number. He tried to do some other stuff, and then he just kind of went dark for a while. He actually he scrapped this channel and started a new one under the same name because he thought probably, like what you said, that the strike killed him or whatever. I personally don't think that was entirely the case, because I know YouTubers who have gotten strikes and it went on to grow even bigger than they ever were. So it just takes actually making content.
Whatever damage it would do, like viewership or recommendation, would be undone within a month.
Right.
It's not like they don't shadow ban that badly.
I want to say this was like a year or two later. He made a very long community post finally revealing to his subscribers where he went and what happened. Because a lot of people kept commenting, not a lot of people, but a couple of people kept coming back and be like, what happened to the video? Where'd you go? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And he never really addressed it until later. I'll read through this community post real quick because I think it's kind of important context and also kind of it kind of shows what his attitude was at that time and still to this day. Hi, if you forgot who I am, I'm the guy who made the BigSky video and got a lot of views. If you go to the channel now, you won't find that video. If you're interested in why, read on. And if not, just unsubscribe from this channel. At this point, this is when he kind of moved on from this channel, was trying to do a different channel, and then he went back to this channel because it had more subs, but he was not consistent in his upload schedule, much like me. In short, here's how it all happened. I posted that video and didn't really expect anything, but within a week, it had already collected about 8,000 views on a practically zero channel. So I guess maybe it wasn't as much, unless he's misremembering the numbers, I don't know. I was getting positive comments every day. I was very happy. Updated the statistics every 5 minutes. And funny enough, I saw new numbers every 5 minutes. Until November 23rd. He's very much about the numbers. And I was too, we all are. Updating them, checking them out. I do that even with this current channel we're on, because I'm a manager on there. I'll be like, when it starts blowing up, I'm like, ooh, how many views does it got now? And this part I highlighted because it's very important, because like someone could argue, well, he did credit you at the beginning and in the description, but he even says right here, you probably didn't notice, but this video had a disclaimer. So like he didn't think anyone would notice the disclaimer, which was the only time he mentioned me. It said that I wasn't the original author of the idea for this video, but an American YouTuber called Who Needs Normal. I took his video as a basis, of course, translated it into Russian, shortened the script a bit, and edited it myself. Essentially, it turned out to be a completely new video. So the night of November 23rd, Who Needs Normal writes me a very accusatory comment about how I stole his work and just slapped my name on it. Plagiarized it. I tried to calm him down, said I wanted a compromise. Who Needs Normal continued to accuse me, ordered me to immediately delete the video. He wrote responses to positive comments under that video, answered people that I stole everything, plagiarized it. At the time, I didn't know that Who Needs Normal was already talking to YouTube support and asking to delete my video. That's not what I did. I just filled out the form and submitted it, but whatever.
No, he's talking about me. He's talking about me and writers. YouTube support.
I didn't take him seriously. Then some friend of his, as I understood, wrote me a long comment about how I, again, stole and plagiarized everything. You can imagine what happened next. I don't think this friend was you. I originally thought maybe it was you, but looking back, I think it might have been another friend that I had at the time. Her name was Clovercat. We met through YouTube and we were pretty close, so I was freaking out to her about it as well. I think that's who left the comment. I know you looked at it, probably, but I don't think you would have left a comment.
I think I looked at it and I was like, ooh, this was in Russian. I can't work out any of this. I don't know, man.
I'm not Russian.
I can't even read Australian.
I didn't believe that the video would be deleted until the very end. I wasn't even sure that Who Needs Normal wrote in support of YouTube. However, around 7 in the morning on November 23rd, the video was permanently deleted and the channel was struck. I have never experienced such disappointment in my life. I hope to never experience it again. And he's kind of describing, it basically sounds like I made him feel the way he made me feel. I immediately rushed to write him an email. In the letter, I apologized and asked him to remove the strike. Apologize? Who Needs Normal took a dominant position. Apparently because he managed to delete my video. That's one sentence. Who Needs Normal took a dominant position, apparently because he managed to delete my video. I don't know what he means by that. I guess because I hold all the cards, I guess. I don't know. He said that he did not feel remorse in my words, but he would consider the possibility of removing the strike. At the end of the correspondence, he still decided not to remove the strike. And that's all true. A few days later, I did a stream. It was very clumsy and boring. After all, it was my first stream. There were only 2 to 3 people in there. I wanted to tell the whole story, but either I was embarrassed or I realized there was no point and ended the stream. This was the last thing I posted on this channel, and it's been idle for 4 months now, and I don't really plan on going back to it. I'd like to thank everyone. Those 19 days that the video was up on the channel were probably the best of my life. Some of the comments, someone wrote, "It's a pity, bro. This happens, and it's better to agree on it in advance. I hope there will be more interesting videos like this." Another person said, "I'm so sorry, but I liked the video that was later deleted and the stream I was on." So I guess this was one of the guys that was in the stream. "I also have a question. Is it worth waiting for your new video or at least a stream later this year? Because to be honest, I miss you." So, he had real fans, people that would have stuck around.
Yeah. Having 5 or 6 people that will comment on a community post after months of a channel being dead is pretty impressive.
Right.
From one video. That's pretty good.
And that's
Like,
what I'm saying. It's
There's a lot of groundwork
I
there.
feel bad, but he could have kept going. Another person said, "By the way, a question. What about Who Needs Normal found you?" I think what he means is, by the way, how did Who Needs Normal find you? And the guy responds and says, "I remember in one of the videos," I think he's talking about one of my videos, maybe a stream or something. He said that once every few months, he just goes to YouTube and looks for videos on the topic of BigSky. Well, or he came across it in the recommendations. That would be funny." And then the guy said, "I understand." Another person said, "And by the way, as I understand it now, you make videos on the language and the topic with these, quote, 'you stole, no you,' unquote, is a blast in the eyes and nothing more." This one translates different ways multiple times. So I have no idea what this person means. I think they're saying that I'm being a child, basically. Another person responded to that person and said, "I talked to him. In general, he's just stupid." I think he's talking about me. I don't know. He might be talking about this guy who stole my video, but I'm pretty sure. Because this guy who says I talked to him in general, he's just stupid. This was one of the guys who was pestering him in the comments saying, "What happened to the video? I love that video. Why'd you delete it?" Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Basically, everyone, not everyone sided with him, but for the most part, people were like, "Oh, I can't believe that idiot American." And that was kind of that. Like I said, he made more videos that never went anywhere. And I kind of mentioned guilt at the beginning. I've kind of addressed that as well. But like over the years, I've noticed there's kind of this sentiment in the larger YouTube community that even if you're capable, like if you're legally in the right as far as striking a video, that it's still wrong to do it. And so I don't know, some people might see me as the bad guy. Part of me still feels justified, and part of me wonders, what was I the villain here? Should I have just left well enough alone? The thing is, it still bothers me to this day. I still talk about it. I still go back and look at this video. I'm like, I don't know if I was in the right. I think legally I was. Morally, I don't know. Clearly, he was not sorry. He didn't think he did anything wrong. There was a lot of ethical issues, like you have mentioned, as we've gone. And I've been scared to talk about it publicly until now because I'm afraid people will villainize me for it. This YouTuber got villainized for another reason, but recently, Carl Jobst, I don't know if you know this guy.
Yep.
Well, I guess he's Australian, so...
I heard about him
Same
from
person.
Mudaha.
Yes, he got in trouble for something else. But before that, he had a Russian YouTuber steal something that he did. And his attitude was he's not going to copyright strike it because that's wrong. And I've heard Moist Critical say it's wrong even if you can do it. Like these big YouTubers have this attitude. And so it's like, but at the same time, why do they think this? Like, what makes them an authority as well? I don't know. But anyways, give your thoughts.
I have some thoughts. I think it's 2 things. So the people who are talking about this type of stuff and the people who have the biggest voices on these are the biggest creators. And that comes with 2 things. So the biggest creators, they have to be saying a standard, but also they do have YouTube whispering in their ear, but also they are at the most risk. So someone will take them to court. So for them, it's a very different thing. They might be in the right, but do they want to go through 3 years of court battles about it? So there's that with that. Also, I will say that most of these people who are getting this copyright stuff are the people who are making reaction videos to TikToks. People like Charlie, people like these reactionary YouTubers, people who are making shit, and it's not worth the fight. That is the reality of it. You look at all the stuff with Sniper Wolf, who has these battles with Azzyland or whatever about the style of thumbnails and all that, and like you are both making shit. You are both cancers on YouTube. A lot of it comes from those types of people, and a lot of this discourse and belief, and a lot of it then just filters down into their communities. They've got 5 million subscribers, 10 million subscribers, and it filters down to their communities of striking bad. Because, you know, Charlie makes a career, and all these YouTube people make a career of reacting to Tech Lad or something like that, the guy who makes these videos on like tech stuff, and he did a bunch of Bitcoin stuff. And anyone who made videos about him negatively, he made copyright strikes on. They farm this stuff for content. Those are the easy YouTube villains. So there is a complete narrative there that, for me, from the perspective of someone who writes books and spends months or years working on a creative project, and with a YouTube video spends months of time, and same for you. There's a different thing. That is a different thing to a TikTok reaction video. That is a different thing to a drama video. That is a different thing. And that needs to be treated differently. That needs to be looked at differently, and you need to defend that. You need to defend your right, like that in any capacity. You are spending your life on this. You are spending your voice. You are exerting all of that, and there's a reason why those protections are there. Those protections are not there to protect fucking TikTok reaction videos, or drama videos, or news videos, or anything like that, or just the general slop. Like, and that stuff is also not there to replace legal battles. Legal battles, there's the first instigator of a legal battle. That's a separate thing. And like that's about, you know, warring egos and all that. For the smaller creator that's spending months on creating something, is learning editing softwares for this type of stuff, that stuff is there to protect them. And I think that it is bad that it's been vilified, and it's not the fault of people like Charlie or Mudaha or any of those guys for vilifying it. It's the issue of the people that have been using it wrong, and then easy prey to be vilified. Right. They're still the problem, but Charlie and those types of guys create the narrative that to use it all is wrong. I've never been in a situation where I've had to use it. If I was in that situation, I would have used it immediately. You do not spend years of your life creating something for that to happen. And I think I think...
No, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Keep going. No, you keep going.
And I think for you, part of stuff I read about, if... It's the whole idea of if you can remember something that's outside of like the recent 6 months of events to you, if you can think back and remember it, and you still have a physical reaction of any kind, so stress or discomfort or nervousness or anything like that, if it's older than 6 months, it is a point of trauma. But it's about the body and your mind. When you think back to it, from what I read, and I find it quite useful. I'm talking, this is 100% true for me, might not be for you, but what it is from what I've read, is your body communicating to you that if that same situation was to happen again, you would not handle it better.
Right.
You would still be in that same situation. You would still be freaked out by it. You would still be panicked by it, and you would still be guilty about it. It's a way of your body communicating to yourself, this is still a threat to me. This is still a danger, and I'm still concerned about this. And every time you think about it, I will communicate to myself that this still freaks me out, to show that this is still a danger to me.
And I guess that goes into the thought I was about to say, is like, I was very reactionary at the time because nothing like that had ever happened to me before. But I feel like I would still be pretty reactionary to this day. I mean, let's say it was a different video. The Piglet video, or even the creature from the Krusty Krab video. That was another thing that I didn't point out that was weird. It wasn't a mistake or like a copy thing directly, but like there's a point where he's talking about small game development studios being bought up or something. It's something about small game development studios, and he just randomly shows a photo of the Oliver twins from Blitz Games in their bedroom working on their games that I used in my other video, and I don't know why he randomly chose that image. I would assume he took that from the other video, but I mean, that's not my image. It's just weird that he went to that video and used that image. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's besides the point. Let's say it was a different video. Piglet video, creature from the Krusty Krab video, maybe the Hitman video, because that was a very personal story, but I don't know that I'd be as upset. I put so much work into this one video, and I put a lot of work into the other videos too, especially the creature video. I mean, I almost killed myself working on that video, but like I said at the beginning, this was my baby, and it felt like someone taking, at the time, it felt like my life's work. It was like the one thing I'd be known for, and it very well still
you have your
could
darlings.
feel that way.
And you have that, yeah.
And having someone take that from you feels very personal, and saying, "Hey, look at what I did." You mentioned trauma.
I think there's also there's also a level of it of just on the YouTube side of the. It also depends on flagging. So look at Markiplier with Unasanis. He indicated the entire time through that once the channel was done, any uploads would be struck down.
I've never uploaded it, but I may or may not have it on a hard drive. I didn't even really watch it.
He said
I
people can
downloaded
download
it for my sister. But
yeah, he said if people can like download, I think, but he was like, if anyone uploads this, the channel will be struck down, and they'll go full legal with it. And multiple people have, and all of them have been struck down, and he's pursued like all of them. And it's like there are people who are upset about that,
right?
But then they get hounded by all the people, like the fans of that, who was like, no, the whole point of this was you don't do that. And if you flag it and make it clear, like this is my work, this is the work I'm proud of.
And I think that's where a lot of the that's where a lot of my unsureness comes through, because it wasn't just a straight re-upload. From my perspective, looking at it, it might as well have been. It's almost worse than a straight re-upload, because he's not just re-uploading my voice, he's taking my voice out of my mouth and putting it in his own mouth.
Yeah.
And I think that's what bothers me the most about it. We're in therapy right now, you guys. I definitely have events in my life that I look back on and I was like, yeah, that's definitely trauma. And I've never really thought of this instance as like, yeah, this is trauma. But when you put it in that perspective, the fact that I dwell on it this much and it still bothers me, I guess on some level, yeah, it was traumatic. I felt a lot of stress.
It can be as simple as I think back on conversations I had 5 years ago, and I get like I get a physical like reaction, like a cringing reaction of like, why did I say that? And I have to go back and think through it. I was like, I'm doing that because I think that I wouldn't handle that better. I'm not 15-year-old Chester. I would handle that better. Right.
Well, I go back and replay conversations in my head and think, how would I have that conversation now? Then it freaks me out because I'm like,
yeah,
it starts.
A lot of it isn't about dwelling on it though and replaying through it. A lot of it is that a lot of what you tell yourself then becomes the actual like formatting of your brain. So it's just that like snap of like, no, I'm not going to react that way. I wouldn't handle it like that. I'd handle it better. And it's that fighting because it's like your brain listens to the story you tell it. And the story you tell it of, man, that was an awful decision. I'm not sure if I did the right thing with that. I'm not sure how people would look at me. That is telling your brain, you are telling your brain, hey, I can't handle that situation again. That would be terrible again.
Right.
But I think you would, because you've been through it. I don't know how I would handle that situation because I've never been in it. I would be angry. I would be scared of telling people about it.
I've always brought this up in conversation. You don't think it's going to happen to you, especially when you're as small as me. You don't think your random crappy SpongeBob video is going to get taken by some other, even like, you don't think you as a small YouTuber are going to get your stuff stolen, but you don't think that another small YouTuber is going to also steal your stuff in the first place.
Yes.
It's a weird experience, and if it ever happens to you, we'll circle back around and have this conversation. But real quick,
I'm in court, guys. We're recording this episode from court. They're suing me for defamation. I don't know how this works.
Real quick, as we wrap up here, obviously this was a bit of a different episode. It's probably going to be maybe a little bit on the longer side. I'm going to cut it down as much as I can. This is the first episode I'm going to be editing personally.
Yeah.
Obviously, this was a very personal episode to me, and now more than ever, I would like to maybe hear your guys' feedback in the comments. We've started to grow a small following of subscribers, so I know some of you are watching. If you've made it this far, let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Do you agree with what I did? Would you have done it differently? Do you agree kind of with what Chester just went through? Or do you agree with the wider YouTube people? Like, I could have done it differently.
There's never a situation to have done it. There's never a good reason to copyright.
Even if I was legally in the right, I still shouldn't have done it. I don't know. I just want to hear from you guys.
We're on the gaming front of things, so we understand Nintendo striking down perfectly good advertisements for themselves. We've experienced that. I get pissy every time I want to talk about these shows that I love, and we can't show footage of it because
Viacom
we'll just get shot in the leg by Viacom.
Viacom
we deal with it as well.
I mean, a lot of other companies, even Rockstar, you can't show the trailer footage without chopping it up like crazy because they just claim all of it. Anyways, this was a long-winded video, but it felt very cathartic for me. I always thought about doing like a more formal video showcasing this, but I think this was the better format to address this. So, and I like having the feedback from Chester here. I think he's very level-headed and knows what he's talking about. Even if he doesn't know what he's talking about, he still knows what he's talking about. So.
I can make it up.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Hopefully next time will be a much more normal episode. We just had
Maybe we'll finally talk about a damn cartoon show.
Had 2 weird episodes in a row. We keep pushing it back, but next time I will at least say expect Nickelodeon content specifically. So this was a weird couple of weeks. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for admiring Chester's hair. See you next week.
Bye.
I watched Recess, no stress in that. The kids next door always playing, messing with each other in the back tree house, chilling and possibly fighting evil, jerking off to Kim and having fun again with my cartoon friends. No classmates anyway, to hell with them, cause I was hanging with